I will hand it over to the Mount Olive Chamber of Commerce to get us going. Welcome, everyone.
So Chuck, do you want to make some announcements, or you want me to go ahead?
Go ahead, Patrice. Thank you.
Yeah, you think? Okay. So
Thank you.
good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for attending. This is our third annual Share Your Success Women's Leadership Panel. And I want to thank everybody for participating today. Just a couple of quick, things at the chamber. We, thanking everybody for taking time out. It's business, not as usual, with everything going on. And I know everybody has different ways of doing things now. And I guess what's the norm, what's not the norm, but we do appreciate you coming out and enjoying this lovely panel. We do want to just say that we are still doing our marketing in the morning. So marketing in the morning on Wednesday. It's usually the third Wednesday. I don't have that calendar time in front of me, but we do a marketing in the morning event that takes place now via Zoom. You register on our website, and we will be having that coming up. I do believe it's next Wednesday morning. I'll get more information on that. Sorry about that. I didn't have that. And then this is part of our Business Builders Workshop series. The Business Builder Workshop series, this is new this year for our chamber. And this is what the panel had come out of as well. We are hosting 7 different events throughout this year. And also all on our website. It's to help our membership with different business challenges. We talk about leadership. We have different speakers come in and discuss different things. And they're usually on the second Tuesday of the month for a couple of the different months that we have. So you could always check on the Mount Olive Area Chamber of Commerce's website. I think it's Mount Olive Chamber NJ.com. So that's really basically it. Donna, did you want me to introduce you now? How did you want that to go? We could do that.
I'm not that shy.
I'm sure.
I'll take care of it for you.
Not that shy. I'm going to pull up right now the intro that I have for Donna. Donna Miller from, she's the president and founder of C3Workplace. There she is, everybody. She's an award-winning business and community leader. She's a speaker, an educator, an entrepreneur who is passionate about seeing small businesses thrive. She has helped thousands of companies to start and grow by providing office space, virtual assistants, as you can see here, thank you, bookkeeping, educational programs, and advisory service. And I do see that there's a fun fact here, which I love, love, love fun facts. She loves to work out to rap music, especially Eminem. Oh, that's great. So, thank you, Donna, for, offering to do this. Not only we discussed it when we were going to do it live, and I'm very excited about that we were, but now Donna has taken this, and with her experience in the virtual office world has opened that up for us here. So I do appreciate that, Donna, and I've learned a tremendous amount from Donna. As a matter of fact, I attended Donna's Earn More program, I want to say it's about almost 4 years ago. So when I first got into business development, so she has helped me a lot. Always can contact Donna, and she's great. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Patrice. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Mount Olive Chamber of Commerce. When we first decided to do this, my process for moderating is to interview everyone and then to find the common theme. It kind of uncovers itself. I don't typically have to work very hard to figure out what the common thread is. So it's never too hard. And then The world as we know it changed, but the truth is, when I went back and looked at our content, it's all still very relevant. So let me start off by, first of all, telling all of you on this call that we are recording the call. So whatever you say, it's around forever. Please do use the chat window. I want to encourage all of you who are attending this event to use the chat window to introduce yourself, to talk amongst each other. This is a new form of networking that we're all going to have to get used to. So use the chat window. And also, I will monitor that chat window as we go, and I will allow time for Q&A at the end, but put your questions in. You can use the chat window, you can use the Q&A window, and we'll do our best to get to all of those questions. The time tends to go by pretty quickly during these events, and I know I can speak for everyone when I say that if we don't get to your question during this event, all of the panelists would be available afterwards to answer your questions. So let me introduce your panelists, and I'll ask each of you to unmute yourself so that we can get into this conversation. So let me introduce author, speaker, and human resources expert, Laura Crothers Osborne. And she'll tell you a little bit about what she does, but I want you to know her fun fact. She skied down a nearly 10,000 foot Swiss Alp mountain during a whiteout blizzard. That's some serious skiing. And let me introduce you to Leah Gassion, chef and host of the mini-series Her Name is Chef, who happens to be a bionic woman. More on that later. Let me introduce you to Janet Neal, speaker, corporate trainer, author, and coach, who started her corporate career, believe it or not, as a security guard at IBM. I always find that one hysterical. And finally, welcome Pam Ann Ungst, a lover of heavy metal. Pam, where's all the tattoos? You've covered them up. And an SEO and PPC expert and speaker. So thank you, ladies. I'm going to start off by asking you each to unmute yourself, and I'll call on you, but I want you to tell our audience in broader terms what it is you do, and maybe even why you do it, because I think what we do is important, but I think why we do it is really important. And you know, Patrice gave you a bit of an intro on myself, and so C3Workplace, we provide office space, virtual assistants, bookkeeping, and business growth advisory services to companies as they start, as they grow. I've been doing it for 25 years. I do it because I really believe in small business. So this current climate of ours is challenging in a wonderful way for me. I have the opportunity to help even more people. So, you know, I get to help a lot of people, and that's pretty much, you know, I believe companies should be a force for good. That's why I do what I do. And that just happens to be what I do. So Leah, tell our audience what it is you do.
Well, I am a chef and I own 2 restaurants, one in Morristown, New Jersey and one in Madison, New Jersey. And I think that I do this for 2 reasons. The first reason being I love to cook. It's a real passion for me, and I feel like the restaurants have now kind of turned into my soulmates. But I think what has kept me in this business for almost 20 years is how every restaurant that you work in, the people you work with turn into your family. The guests that come in turn into your family. And I come from a broken home. So for me, that's always something it warms my heart, and that's why I keep coming back. That's why I've been doing it for so long.
Awesome. Thank you, Leah. Janet, introduce yourself and tell our audience a little bit more about what and why you do it.
My company is called The Superb Woman Incorporated, and I came up with that name after I had the belief that women have the power to change this world in an instant as soon as we realize it. And too often women were following this ideal of being a superwoman, which is all about how much you can do according to what somebody else is telling you you should be doing. And that serves no one. been there, done that, doesn't work. And instead, I've learned through personal experience and through seeing in the lives of so many other women that when we just take the time to understand who we are and to tap into that power inside, look out. Women are immensely powerful. And that's my passion in life, is to help women to step into their power because we need them. So I do the coaching, training, speaking, a couple of books. You name it, what do you need?
Awesome. Love that, Janet. Thank you. And I do agree. Women have superpowers that they need to acknowledge and wear like the trophies that they are. Laura, tell us what and why you do. What you do and why you do it.
There you go. So I run Crothers Consulting, excuse me, which is a boutique HR and leadership development practice. We have a team that works with small and middle-sized companies on their human resource needs as well as on their leadership development. And I think I do this for a couple reasons. So from the HR standpoint, I do this because I realize that small and middle-sized businesses don't necessarily have strategic HR partners working in their business. And I think it's really important to take a look at your business plan, the culture you're trying to create, and then wrap all of your human capital, all of your people programs around those two things. And so that's why I do that piece. And on the other side, I just think, God, the world needs better leaders right now. And if there's anything I can do to help the world get better with leadership, you know, that's kind of why we're in that avenue as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Laura. And Pam, we've known each other such a long, I think we were friends before we were business acquaintances. So tell us what you do and why you do it.
So I have two companies, Pam Marketing and Stealth Search and Analytics. Both do the same thing, but with Pam Marketing, we work directly with clients, and with Stealth, we work through other agencies that want to offer our services without hiring staff for it. So we focus on primarily SEO and PPC, but we also help our clients with Google Analytics and WordPress. And so it's really all about driving traffic to companies' websites and helping them thrive. And that's kind of why I do it. It's just so satisfying to help people succeed in their business ventures. And beyond that too, in my industry, there's a lot of snake oil salespeople, and just, you know, almost every new client we get has been burned by some SEO company once before. So I feel like I love helping them understand what they're buying so that they can make more educated decisions about it. And that's really rewarding too. I feel a little bit sometimes like a white knight or something amongst some crap in the industry. So I find that very rewarding.
And I seem to recall that I've heard you in the past, you were a self-proclaimed geek and you were writing code at the age of, I don't know, 5 or something.
6,
Yeah.
not until 6.
Okay. Oh, okay, I got it wrong. Okay. All right, so
My Commodore 64.
Your Commodore 64. Now, if you were my age, that would be like a band. All right, so I had the good fortune to interview everyone prior to this event. And the thing I want to start to focus on is, and again, I interviewed all of these fantastic ladies before the world slowed down. But I really believe that everything has changed, but nothing has changed. What made you successful in the first place is what will carry you through all of this. So that's kind of where I want to start. Janet, when you and I talked, and we've known each other a long time, we've worked together, you talked about getting clear, you talked about your passion. So tell us why you feel that is a success factor.
For exactly what's going on right now. You know, I've been joking lately that if you want to know when there's going to be a downturn in the economy, ask me when I'm going to start a business, because I have a tremendous knack of starting a business the month the stock market goes down. So Yeah. I just started another business in, when did the market crash? February? Yeah, that was me. But if you know what's important to you and you know what your passion is and why you're doing something like that, you can get through it. Sitting at home on my couch for weeks on end can get really old really fast. But if I feel that I am able to help a woman out there to be able to help somebody else, that's what's going to keep me going. So if you don't have that passion, times like this, it's very easy to let that go.
I understand. That's a good point. And you've worked for me, so you know that as much as I believe in passion, and it's critical, Pam, when I was chatting with you, you kind of went to my heart. You know, I'm a numbers gal. I think in Excel, I run numbers. Pam, your number one success factor talked about profit. So tell us a little bit about, and I think it is the balance, it's passion, but you had a really interesting take on profit. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. So, well, I was inspired by my very first business advisor who was a wonderful woman. I think her name is Donna Miller, who told me and drilled into my head, know your numbers, know your numbers, know your numbers. And at first, when I was first starting my business, I was like, what does that even mean? I'm like, I know she knows what she's talking about, but what does that look like? And it took a good handful of years before I really could say that I knew all of my numbers. I always focused on learning as many of them as I could. But once, so everyone's kind of perception of success seems to be based around, at least the people that I encountered, be based around how many employees you have, like how big are you now? So if I met someone in the business world and I hadn't seen them for a while, then it would be like when we would meet, oh, how big are you now? How many employees do you have? So in the beginning, that was like my definition of success, until I really got to know all of my numbers and be able to figure out the fact that I can make 10 times as much, but with 10 times the number of employees, keep the same amount of profit than if I have just a few employees and a lot less of a chaotic work lifestyle. So, but it sounds so simple, but it did take me quite several years to really, really learn the patterns of our average sales and our average profits. And well, I could go on and on, but that's the gist of it.
Yeah, I do believe that bigger isn't always better. It's really about more profitable is always better. But the other thing I think that comes into that, and Laura, I'm gonna shift to you, because I think sometimes, Pam, when you talked about people, your perception was, how many employees do I have? I think that goes into, sometimes I come across people who walk in what I like to refer to as the imposter syndrome. They're trying to be something they're not, whether it's with their numbers or how successful their business is or there isn't. And Laura, I kind of think that goes a little bit to, your huge success factor, which is who you are and what you do. So talk to us, and I agree with you. I mean, I believe we're here to raise up people. You do it in a very strategic way. So talk to us about, and even spend a few minutes here, because I think it's important, about leadership and what we all can be doing today in this situation to be great leaders.
So I think, thank you, Donna. And I think today, one of the main things, and we've talked about this, is to just be yourself, be vulnerable, tell people how you're really feeling right now, the good, the bad, the ugly, and communicate and communicate and communicate. And a lot of the leaders I talk to will say, but I've already told them that twice. And it's like, well, tell them a third time and a fourth time and a fifth time, because people want to hear from you. They want to see you, even if all you have to say is, you know, I just wanted to touch base with everyone and let you know that I don't really know anything new this week. I'm not sure when we're coming back to the office, but we're working on trying to get a plan in place so that it's very safe when you are coming back. And I'll let you know more about that plan when we develop it. And you can say this for 3 days in a row, 3 weeks in a row, 3 months in a row, but as long as you keep saying it, right? So I think for leadership, you know, looking at being in touch with people and finding ways to touch them, you know, in a real way that fits whatever your culture is. If you say your culture's fun, or you say your culture's family first, well, now's the time to show those things and help people embrace what it is about your company and your culture that's kind of special.
That's so
Is
true.
that
So true.
what you're looking for there, Donna?
Yeah, I think it's even, you know, it's so important now. And Leah, when we were talking, you talked quite a bit about leadership. You talked about having a hands-on approach to leadership. And I imagine because you are in the restaurant industry, you've had to, you know, model that in the midst of a crisis. So share with our audience a little bit about your perception and your kind of lessons on leadership.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, I heard a quote once: you either learn from being shown how to do something or being shown not how to do it. So I've had the opportunity to work for both kinds of people, and I've learned quite a bit in both ways. One of my mentors was a man named Carl Ruiz, and he would call me on a Friday night, and I would be at the restaurant, and it'd be 7 o'clock, and he'd say, Leah, I need you to send me 4 orders of empanadas. And I go, okay, what table? He goes, across the street at the bar. I'm sitting and having a drink with one of my friends. And so I knew that, and I love him dearly. I knew that I didn't want to be that type of leader. So he taught me a great deal in that manner. But I've also worked with some very hands-on people, most recently for Bobby Flay, who his number one thing was, you're a teacher first. And so that's what we try to do on a daily basis. We try to teach people, and I try to teach my staff to also teach the new people, because ultimately, like, that's what's going to make us all better. And there's no way that I'm going to be able to do that if I'm sitting downstairs in the office on my computer. Like, I want to be in it. I want to be a part of the action. I want to see things as they happen, and I want to coach people to the right way of doing it while they're doing it, instead of waiting until after it happened and try to correct it in that manner.
I couldn't agree more. I think we're all teachers first. And I think that more than ever, we are in an era where being solution oriented versus sales oriented is going to get you where you're trying to go. You know, trying to do a hard sell, I just don't, it's my opinion, but I also always think about what I want to receive. I don't want a hard sell right now. I want a solution. So I agree with that. And Leah, you also mentioned, and I want to bring it back up, but you also talked about staying very much in touch with your front desk person and, you know, leading at that level, how important that is.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, there's a lot of working parts in a restaurant, and it all starts at the door. And so if you're not in touch with that person, you kind of really lose grip on everything that's happening. And it starts there with their introduction. Hi, thank you for coming into South and Pine. How are you today? You want them to be warm and bubbly. And again, as you said, it is about being solution driven. And so being able to recognize problems before they happen and see that, oh man, we're already 10 minutes behind, which means in 40 minutes, we're going to be an hour behind. And so what can we do about that now? So I'm kind of always like, whether I'm working in the kitchen or whether I'm working, in the dining room, like expediting, I'm always looking around to see like, oh, that table needs water, or they're finished with their meals, and there's 14 people standing up front that need to get sat. And so I'm kind of always directing the ship and being the captain of the service.
Agreed. And I think that for all of us who have teams, now that we're all working remotely, and I have this slight pet peeve about the word virtual, because there's nothing virtual about anything that any of us do. It's very real. It's just not happening in the same room. I think that leadership and that communication and that checking in with everyone, I know Laura would agree, becomes more and more important. And what worked for them on Monday may not work for them on Wednesday. And right now our teams are dealing with unprecedented issues. Oh, I swore I wouldn't say that word. Sorry. I think we all have new opportunities to connect with our team and to build that family feel, Leah, that you were talking about in your restaurant. And I've certainly tried to create that here with my team too. And Christy Ward just commented that she's never witnessed Donna do a hard sell. Anyone who's taken Earn More has heard me say, I don't suppose I'm the queen of the soft sell. But let's shift a little bit. Let's talk about the other thing we talked about in our pre-interviews is we talked about lessons learned. And, you know, Leah, you said you can either learn what kind of leader you want to be or what kind of leader you don't want to be. And the don't want to be is very often the lessons learned. Janet, I want you to tell us, and I know you'll know what I'm leading to here. I believe in the concept of failing forward. I believe you have to make it okay for the people around you to take risks and to mess up, and then to learn from messing up and to fail forward. Janet, when we were talking, you talked about your big lesson of, you know, having to make some hard choices.
Yeah. So it was probably about the time when you and I met, Donna, but I had come up with a brilliant idea, which was a co-working center for women, back before there was such a thing as co-working, and of course there was nothing for women. And so I opened it in the fall of 2007, again, when the market crashed. But it was a wonderful, it was my baby. It was everything that I ever wanted to do. It was everything I believed in. It was beautiful. It was thriving from the aspect of the concept was catching on. Women loved it. It was successful in that regard. But then as far as like knowing your numbers, as Donna knows, that has not always been my strength. But I knew enough to that it wasn't my strength that I hired somebody to be my CFO, because I knew numbers, what? I'm the big picture, optimistic kind of gal. So I had a CFO who was saying to me, you have to get your investors lined up. And my investors were like, bye-bye, when the market crashed. So I was like, it's okay. I can make this go. I can do this myself. And I did for a year and a half. And he kept saying, maybe now's the time to stop. I'm like, no, I can do this. I can do this. And I went hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt that I didn't need to. And it was the hardest thing for me to do, to say, I failed, that this didn't work. But it did work. And only years later have I realized that because I did that, it was a model for other people to build on it. And I learned so much as a result of it. But I would like the hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank right now. And had I listened to the wise advice of the people that I had hired to give me that advice, it probably would have eased a lot of pain and kind of stopped it in its tracks so that I could move on faster than that.
Yeah. And that's when, you know, the numbers have to take precedent over the passion.
Exactly. Exactly.
And, you know, you have to surround yourself with people who tell you things you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And then we have to listen. So, you know, it is a big lesson. And,
well, there's that.
You know, Pam, yes, there's that too. Pam, we didn't really talk about this in our pre-interview, but because I know you, I'm going to bring this up as a lesson learned as well, similar to what Janet was talking about. I remember when you first opened your business, you offered multiple lines of service. And then I might have been a book you read, there was an aha moment for you where you said, I need to specialize. So tell our audience a little bit about that process for you and how that was both a lesson learned and a success factor.
Sure. So to piggyback off of what Janet was just saying, you know, passion's all well and good, but if it results in numbers that don't work, or just, you know, the quality of service that you want to provide. Like, it just, I wanted to, when I first started, I offered anything and everything digital marketing. That was my tagline: anything and everything digital marketing. If it's digital and it's marketing, we can help you with it. So it was as broad as building websites, email marketing, social media, and SEO and PPC were in there too. But it was just like anything and everything digital marketing. And it's because I was passionate about it all, and I wanted to help businesses with it all. And I truly believe it all plays off of each other to create a marketing machine that works really well. And so I didn't want to see them have any missing pieces in that machine. But you know, it was kind of twofold. It was a book that I read, and it was just kind of like a, you know, conclusion, pretty kind of duh moment. Like, why do I think I could be all things to all people? Like, as my company started to grow and I had more team members and more and bigger clients, it just became very, very, very hard to be good, really good, as good as I wanted to be at all of those different things. And so I was starting to feel like that anyway. And then I had a plane ride where I very quickly read the book, Built to Sell.
That was it, right?
Yep. So, I wasn't thinking about selling the company, but somebody told me it's a good book anyway, read it anyway, even if you're not aiming to sell the company. So that was the light bulb moment for me, reading that book about it. The point is to specialize so that you can be really, 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 really good at one thing. It's better to be, you know, amazing at one or even two or three things instead of, you know, try to be okay at 30 things. And so that's where I got the light bulb. I was like, I need to just stick to what we do best, which is primarily SEO and PPC. And like I said before, we help clients out too with Google Analytics, because that's just kind of part of SEO and PPC, and a little bit with their WordPress sites because of, you know, technical optimizations for SEO. But it's really like, it's a twofold focus. It's SEO and PPC.
We have a question. Do you know who is the author of Built to Sell?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
I'm sure if you Google it, you'll find it. And
Yeah.
I want to remind all of you, I would love to open it up to Q&A whenever the audience is ready. So use the Q&A window or the chat window. I'm monitoring both. The Q&A window, frankly, is a little easier for me to manage. It doesn't scroll like the chat window, but I'm good at this stuff, so I'll make it happen, whichever one works for you. Now, Leah, when we were talking about lesson learned, I loved your answer. So tell our audience what you said about what your lesson learned was.
Remind me what my answer was.
Leah said she would change nothing except she would have.
I would have taken advantage of my younger years and traveled. Probably to go work in Europe for maybe a year. And, you know, that's still something that I kind of dream about now. I do feel that in this life, we can make whatever we want to happen. And so ultimately, like, my end goal is to open a B&B probably on a small island in Greece that has like 6 rooms where I can cook breakfast for people every day and maybe do 2 dinner parties a week. And, you know, just enjoy life a little bit more than working, you know, 70 hours a week now.
Well, I hear you. And I had 2 fantastic trips planned. In fact, I would be leaving for Spain on Friday. That was my first trip. And then my husband and I had an African safari planned this year. Oh, well, we'll do them in the future. So, you know, I opened my business because I did want to have work-life integration. I've never, you know, Pam, I've never been about the bigger. I've always been about the quality of my life. Laura, you talked about your lesson, and this goes, for me, this goes to quality of life. You talked about you would have hired and filled a particular position sooner rather than later. So many of our people on this call, I'm sure, you know, are struggling with managing it all and trying to be a good this and a good that. And you know, you found an investment to be a really good investment for you. So tell our audience a little bit about that.
Yeah, and so, you know, going to looking at the numbers, I was looking at the numbers, can I really hire someone? I don't know. And I said, I really need someone to handle the operations. There was just so much going on, even as simple as keeping my calendar of all the different meeting requests, everything that was going on, you know, getting requests every day from multiple people for meetings or proposals. And so I bit the bullet and found the right person to come in and lead our operations as well as some administration, and put in process, because I'm not a process person. I'm more of a big person visionary. So I was just doing stuff. I wasn't building it to scale. So I wasn't building it so it was a repeatable process that someone else could do. I was like, yeah, just go get that one from that year. So I think having someone in there allowed me more time to do what I do best, right? To be out there talking business development, having time to think of new things, because I wasn't so bogged down in just the running the day to day. So it was an investment that that has very much paid off. And I heard probably Donna telling me that, you know, 5 years ago, you should invest in outsourcing the pieces that you're not as good in. And I knew that, but I just hadn't been ready to bite the bullet. So when I finally did, it was great. And I actually hired someone to also manage my life and go things like take my pool water to be tested, pick up the groceries, grab the kid, like that. And I hired someone to do bookkeeping, and I hired someone to do accounting. So once I did it once and I realized it was working, I've now outsourced everything.
Yeah.
And it's lovely.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, there's great merit in running lean. I think we all have to start lean, but I do think that does not mean that you should be doing everything, because I think all of us as business owners have to figure out what the highest use of our time is. You know, I'm really good at strategy. I'm really good at business development. Nobody wants me figuring out how to create a system for, I don't know, the phones. I'm terrible. So I think we do all have to figure out what our lane is and stay in that lane, and do everything we can to get everything off our plate so that that's the lane we stay in. And I think it's about maintaining focus. And focus for me has always been challenging. You know, I am the original ADD entrepreneur, and it can be very hard to stay focused. Again, feel free to, you know, where time flies quickly on these events, please do ask our panelists questions. I'll be happy to jump into those. Let's shift a little bit. Each of you, I asked each of you to tell me a little bit about maybe what you learned from a mentor or a book that really had a big impact on you. I mean, Pam, you already mentioned Built to Sell, but you mentioned another book, and we've talked about processes, and I want to reiterate that. If you could share with us the other book that you mentioned to me.
It might have been Rework. Was it Rework we were talking about?
Yeah, and it was Rework, but we also talked about E-Myth. We just lost Laura. Hopefully she
Yeah.
can talk
I was going to say, it was either, there's like 3 I talk about all the time. It's Built to Sell, E-Myth, and Rework.
Yeah, E-Myth is all about creating process, creating repeatable tasks, breaking things down. And right now, some of you might have the gift of time. Your business might be slower than usual. You might be focusing on some housekeeping issues. I don't know that there's anything more important than you could do besides working on business development, because we're all trying to do that, but you can't force a solution. But documenting your standard operating procedures and reading E-Myth, which is by Michael Gerber, I think is a really good use of anyone's time. Laura, you talked a little bit about some of the things you learned. I think this might have been me, I don't know. It was go for the no and take risks. So talk to us a little bit about those pearls of wisdom that have had a lasting impact on you.
Yeah, and so I think taking risks is one that we all talk about, right? So even in that last scenario, I took a risk. Bringing someone on at the level I needed, was that a risk that was worth taking? And I think for me, even leaving corporate America and starting my own business was taking a risk. And so I think people need to weigh their risk appetite for some of this, because some of this is risky.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know, and what was the second one?
You said go for the no. I think that's what you had said.
Yes. So go for the no, and that was from you, Donna, is making sure that your clients have an out, right? And so giving them at the end, like letting them know it's all right if you don't select us, if you have another option, if something else happens, let's not waste our time. And I think that that was a really good tip for me, because before that I'd be following up, and I never gave someone the out. And so going for the no, allowing them to say no, was a good thing, and lets you spend your time in ways that are more fruitful for you. And there's a lot of different techniques to doing that.
Right, absolutely. I completely agree. And that's, that's goes to staying in your lane and working at your highest level. You don't need to be following up people who are just saying, yeah, call me because they're being nice to you. You want to give them the opportunity to say, you know what, leave it with me. So I appreciate that. Now, Leah, I have to say that you've had some pretty darn impressive mentors. I mean, before I opened my own facility, I worked for someone else for 7 years. To me, that was the most logical way to learn a business, to get in it, to get paid by someone else, albeit it was not a great salary, it was a great learning lesson. But you spent quite a few years, and you mentioned it before, working under Bobby Flay. What was that like?
Well, for me to start working for him was kind of like a super pinch me moment, because I had watched him on TV since I was a kid, and I couldn't believe that I was like even in the same room as him. And to be honest, Donna, I think I told you this, like I wasn't his biggest fan before I started working for him. I kind of thought he was mean to the country guy on Grillin' and Chillin'. And so when I started working for him, actually my first sit down with him, I was really blown away, because he kept talking about this life-work balance that was something that I was not used to at that point. And then as I started working for him, I really had gained a tremendous amount of respect for him. I think the first moment that I was like, wow, this guy is no joke, was when we did Iron Chef America, and I was one of his sous chefs on it. And he is a beast. He is incredible, but he's a wonderful leader. He's a great teacher. Like I will still watch his cooking shows on TV now, and I'll shoot him a text and be like, not to be like fangirling over you, but like you just taught me a lot by watching that 30-minute episode. So I'm very fortunate to have worked for such an incredible human being, but also someone who is so business minded and such a smart businessman, and has made such a huge name for himself, and is a wonderful cook and a generous human being.
That's great. And you also shared, we are both fans of Danny Meyer. And I had the good fortune to see him speak at a leadership conference. And I left that conference, and this was 3 years ago. I left that conference, and his advice was, every single one of you in this audience, and it was like a huge conference. It was being simulcast. There were probably tens of thousands of people. And Danny Meyer said, I don't care what you do, every single one of you are in hospitality. And if that's the only thing you learn at this conference, it will be a big lesson. And it has rewired our entire conversations that we have here at C3 Workplace, because especially, when we talk about this connecting to people via video, you're in hospitality. It's and Pam will talk about this, every step along the buyer's journey is that opportunity to connect and to create hospitality. And, it's the Maya Angelou quote, people won't remember what you said or what you did, but they will remember how you made them feel. So he's amazing. And again, I think Danny Meyer and Bobby Flay, these are amazing examples of combining your passion with your solid business skills, which mostly comes down to hiring the right people and knowing your numbers. Which leads me to a question we have from our audience. And Laura, I'm gonna throw this to you first. Chuck is asking, what is the decision criteria in choosing when to hire someone to offload a task?
So, did you want to say more?
No, go ahead. I was reading.
Okay.
Sorry. Wasn't multitasking.
So, Chuck, I think it's probably a little different depending upon for each business, but for me, I would look at how much time is that task taking you, and could that time be used for better things, and what is your time worth? So if you know the value of your time when you're really on and you're making business happen, or you're doing the work in the business that is revenue producing, what's the value of that time? And so just say your value of that time is $200 an hour. If you hire someone, are you going to be hiring them for $200 an hour or a lot less? And so kind of taking a look at that and saying, okay, so if I spend $50 an hour, then I get my time back to make revenue with. So, you know, really, I think that's like a simple way if you're looking at the numbers, and then really saying how much is it going to hurt you if you also make mistakes in what it is that you're doing that you're not doing well, that somebody else could do better, you know, and take that investment. And my general rule of thumb for people is try before you buy if you can. So if you can hire a consultant, if you can hire someone that goes temp to perm, if you can outsource it, you know, permanently to a firm like Donna's, all those things I think are good ways to dip your toe in before you actually, you know, hire someone.
I think that's great advice. We have an operational assessment that we do with people, but what I often have, because business owners will come to me and they know they're overwhelmed, but they don't know exactly what they should get off their plate. And we encourage them to do time tracking, and we have a tool. Chuck, if you want to email me, Donna at C3Workplace, I'm happy to send you the tool. But to do some time tracking around organizing your time into things that are a ridiculous waste of my time, you know, those things that I'll need to train someone to do, and those things that I will never get rid of because they are me at my highest value. And we do that assessment, and we always say to the people, okay, if you get these 4 hours a week back, that's 16 hours a month, what are you going to do with those 16 hours to make sure this is a good investment of your resources? So that's kind of the long answer. The short answer is typically you need to hire someone before you think you need to hire someone, because you don't want to get on that hamster wheel of not having time to, I mean, if you hire a good virtual assistant, they should tell you what to do, but you're still going to have to invest a little time in getting that person up and going. So that's my long answer. We have a question from Patrice, and I'm going to ask any one of you to raise your hand and answer this, but in this time of crisis, how has your business delivered better outcomes or thinking outside the box? Leah, you have had to think outside the box.
Yes, we have. So actually, Donna, you and I had a phone call like the day that it all happened, and I was like kind of a mess, to be honest.
In prayer for the longest time.
Yeah, that was a rough, very rough week for me. It all happened so fast, and so they decided to close everything on Monday, the 16th. We closed the restaurant the afternoon of the 17th. I think I spoke with Donna maybe on the 18th, and then I talked to my partners. We decided we were going to reopen. And I'm thinking to myself, how can we make this work? We're only allowed to do takeout and delivery of food, but there needs to be some other source of income that we can have to generate revenue in this business, because we have bills to pay. You know, we have to pay staff to make this work. And so I was on Instagram, and there's a really good Instagram account here in Morristown called morristown.nj. I know the gentleman who runs it. He's a really nice guy. And he posted something that was asking Morristown residents, what would they like to see local businesses offer to make them feel better about like supporting small business? And I was reading through some of the responses, and for some reason a light bulb went off, and I was like, what if we offered groceries to our guests? And we made up a grocery list of like some basic pantry items, but we'll be getting great quality because that's what we serve in the restaurant. And so I messaged him and I was like, do you think people would go for this? And he says to me, let me put it up and I'll see what responses I get and I'll message them to you. And in the morning, he goes, I think it's a good idea. I've already gotten 3 positive responses and I'm going to forward them to you as they come in. Well, 45 minutes later, he goes, I already got 50 positive responses. He goes, I'm not going to send them all to you. And so we started doing this grocery thing. We started with 2 days a week. We actually increased it to 3 days a week because of the demand. And that was 8 weeks ago. I mean, I think that people are getting a lot more comfortable with going to the grocery store now. We're 2 months into this, so it seems to have dropped off a little bit, but that was huge in keeping us afloat through the first 2 months of this pandemic. So I'm really grateful for it.
Awesome. Excellent. Laura, I think you should share about your CEO group because I think that's been amazing.
Yeah, so we did a bunch of things. We decided to help build community for people so that there was a place where they could come to just see what everybody else was doing. So we created a CEO call once a week and an HR leader call once a week. And I've invited everybody, that was in different groups of mine, that ran a business, and they've invited people. So there's all kinds of people on this call, different people every week. And it really gives people a place where they can throw something out and, hey, what's everybody doing about PTO time? How are you treating it for people? Or whatever the topic is, from self-care to employees. And that's been really good. We decided to kind of double down on helping. So we also created some training programs for our clients for free that we would deliver to help them calm the chaos and communicate better virtually. And so I think just in this giving, right, giving to the community, it's given my folks a lot of energy to create these things and be available for these things. It's really helped us. And we're kind of doubling down on this as a marketing effort in a way, right? I think hopefully at the end of this, people will remember us when they have HR and leadership needs.
I completely agree. In line with being a teacher first, we came out with, and we're still doing a fair amount of pro bono consulting. And I think we did some incredible number. We were doing Zoom training because we've used Zoom forever. And when someone shows you Zoom and they spend 5 minutes, you're like, oh, okay, that's good. But there has been so much anxiety over all these new things that we put ourselves out there as, we did a ton of pro bono consulting. We were doing Thursday morning networking. We do, Jen, remember Conversational Connections? We now do it online. And it's not your typical networking. It's silly, it's fun, it's dumb questions. So it's levity. And I think, I really believe, and that, again, I said at the beginning of this call, everything is different, yet everything is the same. All smart business owners know how to pivot. They know how to keep innovating. They have their tools for innovation. I'm a big fan of Fast Company magazine. I don't care what you do, it's all innovation. It's these wonderful young people who are doing great things. I read it every month. Pam, you talked about, I always remember this. Pam follows Google patents to figure out what's coming next. So how are you pivoting? What are you doing differently today to kind of be relevant?
I didn't change too much. I was fortunate in that my business, while at first it seemed like it was going to be very negatively impacted, after the first couple of weeks and the deer in the headlights effect kind of calmed down, and I think people realized life can go on and you can do business virtually, then things picked back up again a bit. So I'm fortunate to not have to have had to scramble that much to pivot, but I did make slight adjustments. I'm definitely helping clients with more than we normally would, while I still strongly believe in that specialization and niching type strategy that I was talking about before. I also believe in taking care of your clients, especially at this time. And so if they needed a quick thing that wasn't something that we typically do, like a quick fix on their website or something, normally I would be like, oh, here's one of our recommended web development partners. You can call them and get a proposal, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm just like, I got you. I'll do it. Like, I know how to do it. I'll do it. And so it's been kind of small things like that. And it's just all about like focusing on the clients that I do have. I always, there's a book, I feel like Pumpkin something, that's like about how retaining your existing clients costs so much less
yeah.
than get
Yeah.
Pumpkin
Getting
Plan, is it maybe? Or
It's Michael Mikhailowicz's the Pumpkin Plan. Thank you.
Pumpkin Plan. Yes, thank you. Okay. Yes,
No.
yes. So yeah, I didn't really do too much differently, as much as I doubled, tripled, or in some cases quadrupled down on just really taking exquisite care of the clients that stuck with me.
Yeah, we've kind of been doing the same thing. We've been making outreach calls, and I send weekly emails, and last week's email said the subject line, "It's me again, over communicating," but everybody really appreciates it, you know? So Janet, what are you doing differently, creatively? What's going on in your world?
Yeah, so my income was coming predominantly through corporate training and speaking engagements, both of which kind of went away. So I've been taking a lot of time in training, learning new techniques, new ways to do online training. And that's starting to come back. Corporations, you know, are notoriously slow in turning around. And so my corporate clients are starting to come back now going, oh, we could do this online. So I'm just starting back with the online training. But the time for me, and helping my individual clients who feel really stuck to kind of feel like, okay, so where are you now? How are you feeling? You know, how do we get you through to the next point? Where do you want to go? And I had to do that with myself. So there was a lot of that. I was very grateful these last few weeks to actually have that time to kind of go, all right, I guess this is my time to strategize. This is my time to step back and go, okay, where are we? What do you need? What are you passionate about? What do you know, how can you blend those two together and make this work for everybody?
Awesome. Well, as I said, the time always flies by. So Patrice, I'm going to hand it back to you so you can wrap things up. But before we hand it to you, can each of our panelists please tell our audience how they can reach you? You can reach me. The website is c3workplace.com. You can email me, donna@c3workplace.com. And on our website, you'll see a resource page, and we list all those pro bono things that I mentioned. And those of you who know me know it's a genuine offer. We really do want to help as many people as possible. So Pam, how do people reach you?
PamAndMarketing.com, Pam@PamAndMarketing.com for email. Really, Pam and Marketing anywhere, Twitter, Facebook, you name it. Pretty easy to find.
Leah, how about you?
Part of my job to be.
You can email me at info@southendpine.com, or you could DM me on Instagram. The handle is @southendpine.
Awesome. And Laura and Janet, our panelists, are typing there. Laura, you are at thesuburbwoman.com, and Laura's at Brothers HR Consulting. And I will send an email follow-up. I'll work with Patrice on that so that you have everyone's information. So Patrice, first of all, panelists, I want to thank you. It was great spending time with you, great getting to know you a little more. Patrice, I appreciate the opportunity to moderate this third annual event, and I hand it back to you.
Great, thanks. So I did get a chance to quickly look into my calendar. So we have May 20th, it's next Wednesday morning, 7:15 a.m. is our virtual marketing in the morning that our chamber does. It's pretty much our premier event that we hold every month. That's a great networking opportunity for anybody to attend. Our sponsor this month is Amish Mike. So if you check out our website, I did put it in the chat, the Mount Olive Chamber NJ.com, I think is the website. I did put it in there. And also July 14th is our next Business Builder Series workshop, and it's going to be at Zigmeister's in Hackettstown. So it's going to be a great event. They do have an outdoor venue so that we can all, you know, social distance as we want. And this speaker is to be determined right now, but it is a talk on leadership, business leadership. I can guarantee you that that will be in the topic. So thank you. Thank you, Donna. Thank you, all the panelists, everybody, and all the attendees that have come out. Appreciate everybody. And we'll see you next time, I guess. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon.